Everybody for coming tonight. I have to stand at the podium because this is being televised. And before we get going, I just want to recognize Councilor Colucci, who's the Ward 4 councilor, Buzzy Barton, who's a councilor at large, Brian Field, who's also a councilor at large, Diane Jacutis, who's a ward councilor, and Brian Castellano, who's on the school committee, and Jared Nichols, who's on the school committee as well. I know he lives in the neighborhood in the area as Brian does. So, first of all, I know there's a lot of concerns about what's going on. And I can tell you that in the last 3 or 4 weeks, for me looking at Facebook, talking to different people at the state level, at the water and sewer, that there is an issue that is coming out of Stacy Brook. It's part of Lynn and Swampscott's drainage from the drains. And back in the early 90s, they separated the soil lines from the drains, is what they did. And the data that's been given to me from the water and sewer, and they claim that it's being tested all the time, that there is no raw sewerage coming into the system from anyone's house. We can disagree and we can agree and all that other stuff, and we can compare data and all of that. I'm telling you the facts, what I've found out in the last 3 weeks, what's been told to me by our engineers, by the water and sewer. And then what we can try to do is try to figure out ways to fix it by working together, and I'll tell you what we're doing. So if everybody would allow me a few minutes to explain what I've found to be the problem, what I'm being told is the problem. So last year there were 4 events where the readings were over 104. This year we've already had 4 or 5 events where the readings are over 104. When you have raw sewerage that is going into the system, the counts are up at 25,000 or higher. And they aren't getting counts like that throughout the system. So the counts used to be up until the late 90s, early 2000s. Those counts were in the 25,000. I used to swim there when I was a kid. I know a lot of you did as well. There was all raw sewerage going in there, and we were all swimming in there. I'm not saying that that makes it right today, what's going on with the counts, but the state delegation is working on ways to fix this. There are a few different ways of doing it. One of them is to extend the pipe about a half a mile out into the ocean, which would cost roughly about $1,000 a linear foot. And it would cost roughly about $4 million to do that. That includes extending the pipe out to the harbor, covering over so that people aren't tripping over the pipes that are coming out of the 2 brooks. The problem is that to get the permitting for that from the state is going to take between 3 and 5 years to do that. So I have talked to the state delegation. They are working on ways to find funding, because Lynn and Swampscott would have to split the cost of bringing the pipe out into the harbor and look for ways to speed up the process to get the permitting done. So the counts and the data that I've been given, and I know there are other people that are sitting in the audience saying that the counts are a lot higher, are in the low to mid 100s. I know there are some people who say they're in the thousands, and the data that I just looked at, the highest I saw was 2,500. Now, in order for there to be raw sewerage, it has to be up around 24,000 or higher, and that's not what the counts are. The water and sewer has assured me that there are no households that are tied into the system, and there are no businesses. And what's happening is, the reason you get in the counts is after it rains, it's runoff that's coming from Swampscott and from Lynn. It's 740 acres of land that are draining in there. It's also Flax Pond, and it is also Buchanan Bridge. So you have waterfowl that's defecating in the water, and other things. And you also have people that are dumping stuff into our sewer system, whether it be oil or other contaminants. And then you also got to take a look at that people are using pesticides and other chemicals for their lawns. That's also draining in there. So until we can stop people from owning pets, from people putting fertilizers on their lawns or whatever else it may be, we're not going to really stop this problem where the pipe stands right now. That's why it's got to be brought out further into the harbor. So, has anybody got any questions? Yes, sir.
Do you think it's a problem?
Absolutely. And that's why we're working on trying to fix it.
If the count is not high enough for it to be sewage, what is it? It's not clean sewage.
It's animal feces that's going into the system. It's waterfowl that's going into the system.
So my question would be, if you extend that pipe, you're still going to have all those things going into the ocean, which is
Right.
harmful.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I don't have dogs that I take down there anymore, but I used to take my dogs down there walking, and they would get very sick from there. So I don't think you get sick from clean water. And do other parts in the area where people are swimming this summer, do they have as many red flags going up for bad weather, bad water as we've had?
No, they don't. It's where the pipe comes out, to be honest, what the issue is. I'll get to you in 1 second. So what the problem is that it's in the inside of the horseshoe of the bay. So you have standing water that stands there, and after it rains, there's not enough time for the tide to come in and the tide to go back out for it to dissipate back into the system. So this is going on everywhere in the country. It's just because of the location of where this pipe is. That's why this has to be brought out further into the harbor.
My name's Bruce Berman from Save the Harbor, Save the Bay.
Yep.
I'm here representing the Metropolitan Beaches Commission, of which Mayor McGee was a former chair, of which Brendan Crichton is a chair. He's in session tonight. And is
Could you speak into the mic, sir?
Yes, sorry. My name's Bruce Berman. I know many of the people in the room, and I want to thank all of them, and you, and the municipal officials in Swampscott and Lynn for addressing this problem over time and doing and living with it. 2 years ago, Save the Harbor, Save the Bay and the Department of Environmental Protection conducted what they call a synaptic study. We installed a rain gauge at the house of the mother of a state representative, who I won't embarrass, adjacent to the beach. We put a flow meter inside the 2 barrels of Stacy Brook, and we looked at the water quality data. And we took the data from those studies and the historic data, of which there's 20 years, and convened a meeting of a science advisory committee of 20 experts from both communities and also from across the Commonwealth and around the country. And I want to tell you what we found.
Okay, but what I want to say is, and I get what you're saying, and I am not saying that anything is accessible. What I'm saying is there is a problem, and we are trying to figure out a way to fix it. So I know you want to show me data, and you want to
I don't want to show you data. I want to tell you what the conclusions were of the Beaches Science Advisory Committee.
Yep.
And they were that both Swampscott and Lynn contributed substantially to the problems on Kings Beach with discharges that were different. Lynn's discharge is primarily urban stormwater, which is dirty at its best, but which clearly, as a result of the fact that it runs through not a new system when it was separated, but through the old sewer system, inherited a number of illicit and older connections, which frankly have not been addressed, although many have. It's a house-by-house effort, and it's one which the Commonwealth has indicated, as I mentioned to you, Mr. President, that the Baker administration and the delegation have $20 million that will help individual homeowners and the community address the problem once we, admit that we have it. Now, Swampscott is a major contributor. And the way that we can see the difference between the two communities is that on dry weather, the counts on the Swampscott side are very high. and they indicate what you call pure sewage or something like that, okay? That means, and those counts are 25,000. The counts from Lynn indicate a mixture of stormwater and stuff that we call IDDE, which is, older pipes that were misconnected or that remain connected after separation, that contribute primarily during rain. It's really an interesting beach, but you don't want to hear that. It's interesting because you see both dry weather sewage problems from Swampscott and stormwater that's contaminated with human waste from Lynn in a pipe on a beach that if you look up on YouTube, you can see the kids from this community jumping into, and they should not. All right? Now, it's true, absolutely, that that on some days, the counts on the beach or at one side or another were under 104. And I share your frustration with the way that flag metrics have been done, particularly this summer. But there's no way that problem has been solved.
No
Both
one's
communities,
claiming the problem's been
so
solved.
both communities need to work together, and we at Save the Harbor, and I know that the delegation and the Beaches Commission will work with the city and with Swampscott to find the resources to address the issue. Just one last answer to the question, which was, are there other communities in the Commonwealth that have this? This has, in addition to the problems we're discussing, been a miserable summer, especially June, from the point of view of rain. And as a consequence, beaches that had been better performing than Kings, like Wollaston, Constitution, and Malibu Beach, were closed for 5 or 10 days at a time, when I believe, as you believe, that some of those days they should not have been closed.
Absolutely.
So this fall, at the request of the Beaches Commission, we're going to reconvene the Science Advisory Committee, and we're going to make recommendations to DPH, who is responsible for the posting system, about some changes which we think will make it easier for the public to understand when it's safe to go in the water. Because we share your frustration. It's not just about protecting the public health. That's really important. But it's also about letting the public enjoy an incredible resource in the hottest weather and be safe while they do it. And so we'll work with you, and I want to thank you for calling attention to this important issue. And I want to thank again the Lynn delegation, the elected officials from both communities, water and sewer from both communities, but particularly the Friends of Lynn and Nahant Beach, who have been instrumental in underscoring the value of that beach to the people that live in this gateway community. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. And before we do go any further, I want to say that Representatives Laurie Ehrlich, Dan Cahill, and Peter Capano wanted to be here tonight, as did Senator Brennan Creighton. All of them can't be because of what's going on in Boston at the State House. I did talk with all of them today, and I can tell you that all of their offices are working diligently to try to rectify this problem. And we are in constant contact with them. I also want to point out Bob Tucker, who's the president of the Friends of Lynn Beach, who's sitting here. So as the gentleman just said about the beaches are staying closed longer than they have to. Part of it's because of the way they take the count and the amount of incubation time that they have to give for the counts to come back down. So it's between 24 and 48 hours after they take the readings and they get the high counts. So, do you have a question?
Hi, my name is Mike Salona, Vice President of the Friends of Lynn and Nahant Beach. Worked on this issue for many years, including the health side of things. And so I just want to clarify, thank you for calling this meeting. And I feel like it's good to have a give and a take. You've kind of expressed your opinion of what has been conveyed to you in terms of what's happening, and I just wanted to clarify a few things. This beach has historically been one of the worst in the state. That is not something new. The count of 2,600 that you're alluding to that don't mean raw sewage is actually the maximum level of the method that they're testing at, so they can't get any higher. In the lab sense, it's called you blow the plate. You've got so much bacteria that it covers the entire plate that you're incubating, so you can't even count it. So for all intents and purposes, it could be 25,000. You can't count any higher than 2,600. It's been an ongoing issue for many years. We, the Friends of Lynn and Nahat Beach, want to be a partner. The Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, I don't think over time has necessarily had, I don't want to say a friend, but a partner to work on some of these issues.
So if I may point out before we go any further that Councilor Calucci is the representative from the council to the Water and Sewer. He is here listening tonight. He's not going to put any input in unless he wants to, but he's going to take back to the commission all of our concerns and let him know how we all feel.
So I would say, one, we would like there to be, I think we can agree that some of the water coming out of the pipes is unhealthy. It contains a lot of bacteria, things that are coming up.
Yep.
So we would like there to be some additional signage. This is not really a City of Lynn issue, it's more of a DCR issue, but also the town of Swampscott, to advise people to stay out of that water that's coming out. Regardless if it's, the count is 200 or 1 million, it's just too high. We'd also like to have some better notification, and again, this is something maybe we can work with the Sewer Commission on, in terms of when they're actually releasing raw sewage, which does happen occasionally. And there's not a lot of public conveyance of information about that. It happens relatively frequently in Lynn Harbor and in Saugus River, at least once or twice a month. Occasionally happens on Kings Beach, and there's very little notification that, again, raw sewerage, as the CSO has to let go, is being released onto the beach. And so we would definitely want there to be some better education about that, because as you said, the 24-hour incubation period for the bacteria, you have to wait a day to get the results back. Looking at the data from this beach and other beaches, this is actually one of the better beaches for knowing that you're going to get consecutive exceedances because of the dirty water that's coming on. So finally, I just would want to say we do want to work with the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission, but they have to kind of meet us halfway and have to be willing to meet with us. Some of the communications I've certainly had with them, being dropped off of email lists and everything, makes me indicate that they are not really interested in working with us. So
Okay.
I look forward to something
I can
better
tell
than
you
that.
right now that you can use myself or you can use Councilor Calucci as conduit to the Water and Sewer. That's why we're having this is our first public meeting on this issue. And we are going to address it. We are going to work with the public. We're going to work with the Friends and any concerned residents down there, because in our opinion, no count is acceptable. So we're looking to make the beach as healthy as we can. It's not going to be a problem that we're going to be able to fix overnight. It's going to take a little while, but we are willing. This is a start, and it's actually a good start to have this many people.
And again, thank you for calling the meeting.
Thank you. I want to point out that Brian LaPierre just walked into the room. He's another councilor at large. And this shows you the importance to the Lynn officials to have all these different ward councilors and councilors at large here representing the city, because they can see the concern of the community. So a lot of their wards don't even touch the water, but they are as concerned as we are. Go ahead, Bob.
Mr. President, as Michael said, I want to thank you for convening this meeting and allowing the public to get more information of what is happening at Kings Beach and what has happened in the past and what can be done to solve this problem. As a lifelong resident of the City of Lynn myself, as a former public official, as a member of the Metropolitan Beaches Commission, as president of the Friends of Lynn and Nahat Beach, I believe that we have sufficient information of what is happening at Kings Beach. I do want to just dispute a couple things that the Water Sewer Commission told you. One is that there's no raw sewage ever released on Kings Beach. That is not accurate. And two, I don't know how they can say that there are no households or businesses that have illicit connections to the system. I dispute that also. Those two factors contribute to what is happening at Kings Beach. However, as Vice President Michael said, I would like to request through Councilor Calucci and through you, Mr. President, that the Friends of Lynn and Nahant Beach be added to the notification list that the Lynn Water Sewer Commission sends out when there are overflows. We are an organization of over 200 members. Our main concern is the environment and the beaches. And I think that, as Michael said, we would like to work in conjunction with the commission to help solve this problem. As you know, being in Lynn all your life also, that Kings Beach is one of the dirtiest beaches in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I think we all know the difficulty it is when you have a brook, and a Stacy Brook outflowing there in Swampscott and on Lynn. So our request is simply that we have more notification on what is happening. This is a first step. You can see by the turnout of the people tonight on a 90-degree night of their concerns. And I think that the Friends of Lynn Nahant Beach are willing to step up to the plate, to work with you, to work with the Lynn Water Sewer Commission. Obviously, we're working with the Metropolitan Beaches Commission. But I think better communication has to begin. And if you could follow through on that, Mr. Colucci, and to have the Friends of Lynn Nahant Beach added back to the notification list that the Lynn Water Sewer Commission deleted Mr. Salona from. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I just want to say, to let everybody know that, yeah, I realize that it's 90 degrees out. It's actually higher. So Councilor Colucci made sure that the air conditioner was going to be on all day in here to make it comfortable for all the residents. So I want to say thank you, Councilor Colucci. So are there any other questions?
Hi, I'm Pam Edwards. I live 41 Ocean Street. So there is a good turnout tonight, but it's not like any of us could go to the beach swimming, right? So anyway, I've been following this for a long time and appreciate all the work of the Friends of Lynn and Nahant Beach. But the one question that I hear, and sometimes, even though I work with different municipalities, and we hear it at all of them, if we were to invest in a pipe that goes out and not fix the root of the problem, isn't that just wasting money?
It's a start.
It's a
It's
start
to make
of
it so
wasting.
that, well, the reason why it's a start, to be honest with you, is because that is a solution that the state, as well as the federal government, has suggested to do in the past. What it would do right away is help clean the beach, and the counts would be able to dissolve quicker when it's out there.
Is
So
there,
prior to the source separation, those counts were 25,000.
well, I think that we, like you said at the beginning, we could debate data, but we do know that there are bad pipes in the city. Whether about the beach or not, we know that. And we know that there's a problem with Swampscott. So I think that we as a community should say, let's fix the root before we Band-Aid it, especially that kind of money.
Right, it's just to fill you in, it's not
Yeah.
to Band-Aid it, it's start, regardless of what we do, whether we move the pipe out or we go and we search out every pipe that's in the ground that's still contributing to the problem. You know, you have to start somewhere. So that's probably the quickest, fastest way to make the beach and the water in that area safe for the public to use.
And then I have a second point. I was just wondering, so we have the issue with the Stacy Brook, but why do we never see any organized cleanup, other than the volunteers, at our beaches? You know, you go down there and, you know, you can see the equipment down at Nahant Beach and there, but never at our beach. Is there a reason that it's just,
There is.
we've got sewage and so why bother?
Yeah, well, the reason why they're down, you see the trucks down cleaning the seaweed up on the other side of Red Rock is because of the stench. There's only 2 places in the whole world that grows, and if you don't clean it, the people that live at 300 Lynn Shore Drive I won't even tell you what they'll do. So, but that's part of the reason it would be unbearable to live down in that area if they didn't clean that on a daily basis. Are there any other questions? Please come to the podium.
Hi, I live at 3 Lynn Shore Drive and wanted to reinforce the importance of identifying these problems in the street with the sewer pipes. It's because raw sewage is backed up into the basement of the property I own historically. It is located on Ocean Street, abutting the 2 grassy islands. The sewer pipes, I learned from a conversation with Superintendent Johnson this year, from Lynn, the pipes from Lynn on Ocean Street connect at the Eastern Avenue point, diagonally across and underneath the Green Islands, and then go to Swampscott. So my sewer, as well as the houses in that area, go to Swampscott sewage, not Lynn. Then they turn around, back up, and come back down Lynn Shore Drive, and I was told. So that part I am not familiar with the maps of the sewer system. However, what I think needs to be identified is the hookups between Lynn Pipes and Swampscott at that intersection, because it's on the Lynn-Swampscott line. And they're old pipes. Something's broken, and it's draining into the beach. It's so simple.
Right, I can say this, that Swampscott pipes are older than Lynn, and their issue is different than what Lynn is. So they've been issued an order, and they gotta go in and reline the pipes rather than pull them out of the ground.
Yes.
Swampscott storage is coming into Lynn.
Yeah.
To our plant where it's being cleaned. They pay us to do that.
One observation I made, when Swampscott was having their pipes rotor-rooted, a lot of trucks were around from a rapid flow. When they stopped circling the area where the sewer pipes are where I live, that's when the cellar backed up. So I'm thinking, well, they put a lot of water into the system cleaning it, something's wrong. So again, as the man from Save the Bay said, it's between Swampscott and Lynn. It's got to be a power that's stronger than just me talking about this, that the pipes in that area, money needs to come in to fund investigating those old pipes right there in that whole section between Swampscott and Lynn and fixing the problem. Never mind the pipe that goes out, the pipes underground that are falling apart. I looked down into the ground. They lifted up the manholes for me because I was adamant to get this problem identified.
Right,
So that's my contribution.
okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to?
I'm Suzanne Chapman. I live on Ocean Terrace, and I want to say, starting off, that my entire life I've arranged to be within walking distance of that beach. Every apartment I ever had, every place I've ever been had to be near that beach. With that being said, about a month ago, my sons and their friends, 6 of them, decided to go swimming one evening at Kings Beach. The next day, all 6 of them woke up very ill with intestinal problems that lasted for weeks. They were very sick. One even went to the emergency room. That very same day was the day that the notice went up that the beach was not safe for swimming. So my concern is the water is already polluted by the time it is discovered and to be polluted and the public is notified. That's what I'm concerned about.
Okay, thank you. Again, and I'm not a scientist, I'm not the person taking the counts. I know when they go down there and they take the counts, it takes between 24 and 48 hours for them, for the count to give them whether or not the water is polluted or not. So it's not satisfactory to me. So we have to try to figure out a way for them to speed up that process. Please come to the podium.
Darren, I'm Nicole Bouchard. I live at 20 Pierce Road. Darren, why can't there be an audit of the sewage system, either Lynn or Swampscott, right where it's coming from? Why can't there be an audit done of who is dumping raw sewage into the pipeline. You know, I just, you know, with these commissions, and they know the sewage underground mapping. I had a sewage problem. It had nothing to do with any of this. It had to do with backup, and it had to do with trees and roots. You know, they put that camera down there, and they can see everything. You know, these commissions know what's going on under the ground. They also know who's dumping in there. I would be so surprised that they don't know. So we need to demand as citizens an audit of who's dumping into the pipes, and then somehow then resolve it, circumvent it, get, you know, this, I understand your issue of bringing the pipe out to the ocean and all that, but as several of us have already said, that is a Band-Aid, okay? Okay, they got the money at the state to give us to do that, well, that's really great, but that's not gonna fix our problem. We got people sick. This is our beach. You know, I moved to this area because of this beach. And it has gotten dirty. We don't get the notification, so people get sick the next day or that day. That notification should go out within 8 hours, all right? These little flags that go up, why don't we close the beach? Close the beach.
I truly believe that there's a 24-hour incubation time for when they're doing the testing, and they haven't devised a way to speed that process up yet. Do you have an idea?
Yeah, I can speak to that. It is a 24-hour turnaround time. There's been a lot of effort. That's across the country. There's been a lot of effort to try to figure out a quicker way. Really, we're not there yet.
Right.
The plus is, because as Bruce said, we have 20 years of data, we know in many cases that the water is dirty before we get the results back. But they're not preemptively closing. Anytime after it rains, I would not go in that water. Okay. Absolutely not.
All right,
so there are ways around that, but...
Okay, so given that, okay, that's one issue. But the real issue is identifying where the raw sewage is coming from, who's dumping in, who's tied in, who's done maybe some business or, you know, renovation in their houses, and it gets dumped in there or not. There's got to be an audit done of that, of the corridor, and find out where it's going. And this is the first time I've ever heard that Lynn actually dumps raw sewage on the beach, into the system from time to time. I've never heard of that. Is that true?
What happens is, when you have a rainfall of several inches, there is no system that's capable of handling that. And once in a while, you will have an overflow of raw sewage. It doesn't come down Stacy Brook. It goes out into, go ahead.
Sorry. So part of the issue here in Lynn is that there are still sections of the city that have a combined sewer. So the system is handling both raw sewage and, when it rains, stormwater. Because when it rains now, it rains frequently because of the changing climate, it's too much water for the plant to handle. So the plant has an automatic fail-safe of let it go. So it has to push it out raw somewhere else, because either it's going to go into your house or it's going to overwhelm the plant. And so that it goes out onto Kings Beach. It usually goes out onto the Saugus River and into Lynn Harbor. But sometimes it does go into Kings Beach. The primary issue is this slow drip of some kind of illicit connections in the system that are continuing to happen. Occasionally there's a big push of it, but only sometimes.
Sometimes it's frequent, not very frequently. Maybe you might have it once or twice within a 2 or 3 year period. It doesn't happen
twice last year.
Yeah,
so far.
But it hasn't happened this year.
Okay, so, all right.
And that was when we had one rainstorm where we got 7 inches of rain in an hour's time. And I'm not defending it. We're in the process right now, the water and sewer, is to do sewer separation in West Lynn, which will probably take, I believe the East Lynn one took about 3 or 4 years. That's going to take 3 or 4 years. So, go ahead.
The Lynn Water and Sewer is under its 3rd consent decree with EPA. That means EPA has brought them to court 3 different times to try to get them to fix the problem. Right now, the Kings Beach situation is supposed to be fixed by 2030. We got 11 more years to go.
talked about three different issues here.
Correct.
But I really want to get back to the audit issue.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm kind of done. I'd like to know I want to know how we could go about.
Okay, so just to let you know, and you can call it an audit, you can call it whatever you want, but they do take readings weekly, sometimes daily, inside the system to see if there is any raw storage that's going in there. And I've been assured that there isn't any storage coming from any home or any business into the system. The problem is
In Lynn.
in Lynn.
Okay, what about Swampscott?
I can't talk about Swampscott other than to say that the federal government is in there mandating to them that they have to reline the pipes, and they're in the process of doing that right now.
What's relining the pipe going to do?
It's going to take care of whatever the problem is. It's the pipe itself that's actually causing the problem, from the way it was explained to me. And just to let everybody know, I'm not here to combat or challenge anybody. I'm here to give everybody an opportunity to voice their opinion so we can start the process of trying to fix this. That's why we're here tonight. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm Pat Flynn. I also live on Ocean Terrace. My concern is more of on the immediate side of things. I fancy myself a pretty observant person. My wife is far more observant than I. But it wasn't really until, I would say, a few weeks ago that I actually figured out what the very stylistic flags meant. They're very aesthetically pleasing, I will give you that. I appreciate them, but they look more like like an icon of the city. And they by no means give you the impression that you absolutely should not go in the water because you might get incredibly sick. And I suppose my question is as to whether or not, and in addition to the tiny red signs, emphasizing the tiny part, if you guys happen to share the concern about the signage, it's just, I'm fortunate enough to see the beach pretty much every single day, and there hasn't been a single day where I've seen that tiny red sign that I'm familiar with where there hasn't been people in the water. It doesn't seem to be catching the attention of anyone, and that's real human pain, and that we don't hear about, that mothers can't come here to report on the sickness of the days after, or the animals that are getting sick in the process. And I was just curious if you folks are concerned about the signage issue.
Yep, absolutely. And I can tell you, we've reached out to DCR. We've asked them to put better signage down there. They've informed us they can't. I just want to also point out right now, real quick, that Dulcie Gonzalez is here from Senator Creighton's office. And also, I hope I say this right, Patel is here from Representative Laurie Ehrlich's office. So we have been working with their offices, as well as Dan Cahill and as well as Peter Capano's office, try to get the DCR to put better signage up down there to try to make the public more aware of what's going on a daily basis. I agree with you. I had no idea what those red flags, because one day I see blue flags and the next day I saw red flags. I didn't know if the Friends of Lynn Beach put them up there. Nobody notified us what they were about. So I agree. I'm just as frustrated as many of you, as well as my colleagues are. So, Jane.
My name is Jane Cahill. I'm also a member of the Friends. I want to thank you, Mr. President, for this meeting. I would just have one suggestion that I hope you would continue for another meeting. I would like to maybe see someone, no offense, Mr. Colucci, but maybe like someone from the Lynn Water and Sewer, an engineer or somebody that really could answer some of the questions, come for the next time. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Can we invite somebody from Swampscott? Can we invite somebody from Swampscott?
I can invite, I can't, make them come here because they are a separate community.
For the signage, the signs in Spanish too?
The signs what?
Spanish. In Spanish?
Well, they
because you can't swim. The red signs, they're in English, they're not in Spanish.
They're just in English, okay.
And I think it would be very helpful if they were in another language, or in the Spanish.
I certainly don't mean to correct anybody, but the sign, they're like a pendant, they're small, but they do have the circle, they have a swimmer.
Right.
and with the slash through it, like if you don't smoke, you put the red slash. It's not that great, believe me, and they're too small, but they do have the universal.
I was down there 2 weeks ago, and I might have been one of the few people that did not speak Spanish down there. There were a lot of people who speak Spanish down there, and a lot of time, they don't understand the signs, they don't read the signs, or they don't read English, so I think it would be helpful if they put them in Spanish.
Right, and I can tell you this, and this isn't to knock anybody or to, last year we were having an issue at Goldfish Pond, and we put barricades up with yellow tape, and there was still parents down there with their kids allowing them to play in the water. I mean, there's only so much, and I agree that the signage down there is insufficient. It's not enough to make the public aware, so I'm going to do everything I can to get better signage up there. And hopefully people will be able to understand what it all means and stay out of the water when bacteria count. Peter?
Yeah, thank you for putting this meeting together. I know you're concerned.
Peter, can you just come, I'm sorry. If anybody has a question, I'm going to ask them to come to the podium. I got to let you know, my hearing is not all that great, so.
My name's Peter Cipriano. I live on Merrill Ave. I know you're concerned just like us. How can we help? How can we help?
Here's the start right here. So tonight, the items here, this is a televised, it's going to be on TV. The Lynn Journal is here tonight. So, and you have 50, 60 people that are here. So it's going to send a message right back to our state delegation. It's sending a message. You have councilors that are here, school committee members, Water and Sewer Commission people. So this is a start. So it's not going to end tonight, I guarantee you. So we'll have another meeting, maybe within the next few weeks. Maybe we can, when the friends start to meet, we'll get together. We've got to find an answer, a solution to this.
Signage is key too. There's a sign that says it costs $10 for parking at Nahant Beach. There's a sign that says fireworks are, we're going to close the beach for fireworks. We can get the sign up there.
Yep.
So I'll throw in a few bucks.
We're going to be working with DCR tomorrow. And so is Laurie Ehrlich's office, Senator Creighton, Cahill, all the councilors, Peter Capano. We're all going to be sending a letter to DCR and to the governor, who only lives, half a mile away? So I'm sure the governor goes past that beach every single morning and every single night on his way home.
We all do.
So, unless he's flying in the helicopter, that's a different story, but.
Well, I know you're concerned just like us, and I know you want this fixed. You want to take a dunk in the beach too. We know that. So, thank you.
I would also like to point out Megan from the mayor's office is here as well tonight. So this is a concern that we all have. And it's not something that's going to go away overnight. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I'm going to do this one more time.
Go for it.
We need Swampscott's involvement. I know you can't force, I know and this is wonderful, and that we're all concerned and we're all here. And you can assure that Lynn Sewer is not dumping in unless it's that overflow thing, okay? But we need Swampscott involved. Just want to point out, their lovely little beach is scraped, is cleaned, is so beautiful down where the yacht club is. Is that Phillips Beach?
Fisherman's Beach is
Fisherman's
what you're
Beach?
talking about. Yeah, Phillips is further down.
Okay. Well, Fisherman's and probably Phillips are pristine. They're never over there where that water's dumping out in our corner. Right. They don't do anything there cleaning that out. We really, really, really need some kind of a reaching across the board here over to Swampscott to get them, to cooperate with us somehow. I'm not sure how that's done or whether you have any influence or if anyone has any ideas. But, and I'm kind of surprised there's not even anyone here from Swampscott. I know this is a Lynn meeting, but.
And I'm going to take responsibility for that. I didn't invite anybody, to be honest with you. I'm not going to, give you a line saying they didn't just show. Go ahead.
I mean, like this lady was with sewage jumping, with the pipes coming.
Yep, I agree.
Mr. President, I wanted to thank you as well for convening this meeting. And I never disagree with elected officials, but I do want to say that this isn't the beginning of a process. It's been a long slog to get to where we are.
Yep.
And again, I give a lot of credit to the Friends of Lynn and Nahant Beaches for having made it so clear to people how valuable this is to all the residents of our community. And I agree with that. I also think that, you have to understand that Lynn and Swampscott are intimately joined. You share a beach, you share a discharge pipe, and you share a sewer treatment plant. And there are other close relationships as well. You also share a state senator and other electeds. Both communities have made important investments. That's part of the problem. Swampscott, relatively small town, not a big tax base, not a lot of people. Lynn, challenged and rising to the challenge in so many ways, but financial challenges for schools and for everything. We get it. And that's why I just want to point out that the Commonwealth has $20 million in the environmental bond bill to help Lynn and Swampscott address these problems if they prepare a request. It's difficult. It's time consuming. But so is going house to house with dye packs and testing every single connection, because that's what it takes. In Boston, as I mentioned to you, when they find one, they don't build the homeowner, which is tough, especially in a low-income community. They don't build the homeowner, they just fix it. We should ask Governor Baker and Representative Polito and the delegation to work with Mayor McGee, who already supports this, to get additional resources to help people solve the problems. And finally, an apology. I mean, in essence, Lynn should have been included in the Boston Harbor case. But you guys were ahead of the curve, and therefore you've had to pay most of these costs alone. In Boston, 43 communities share those costs. Makes it easier to get the job done faster. But I think you can see that there's a rising tide of demand for clean water. And the Commission, Metropolitan Beaches Commission, and Save the Harbor, Save the Bays Beaches Science Advisory Committee will do anything that we can to help you. Thanks again for
Thank you. I want to make it clear to everybody how important our beaches are to our city, to our officials. And the reason being is because it's one of the things that we use to try to entice developers to come here into the city is our beaches, our golf course, our woods. So I 100% agree the importance, not just of Lynn Beach, Kings Beach, Nahant Beach, Fisherman's Beach, and whatever beach you want to talk about. That entire area down there, people are walking, biking, going down there with their pets. They're on the beach, they're in the sand, they're in the water. So it's a very important asset to the city, resource that we have. It's as important as any park. It's as important to us as any golf course or any school or anything in the city. It's what's going to help entice developers to come here. The mayor recognizes how important that is. The city council recognizes how important that is. So does our state delegation. That's why we're here tonight. So maybe everybody has been working on it. This is the first time I've got involved in it. This is why I'm saying it's a start for me tonight, and it's a start for the council. So we're going to work with it, with the community, and try to do whatever it takes to get that beach fixed, clean, and whatever the issue is that's causing the problem, try to resolve it. So, are there any other questions?
I just wanted to quickly make a comment from Mayor McGee's office.
Megan, could you just Thank you. Megan represents, she's the chief of staff in the mayor's office. So, and this shows how important this issue is to us.
I just wanted to let everybody know that the mayor has had conversations with the town of Swampscott about this. It's been a priority of the mayor's when he was the state senator and represented both communities. And so I don't want to speak for the town of Swampscott, but I do know that they understand the importance of it and their contribution to the problem. And it is something that we have had a handful of conversations about, especially sort of getting together and requesting as a united front the funding that Bruce mentioned from the state on this. So I absolutely think that they would be amenable to doing, future joint meetings, that kind of thing, and that we're not at odds with each other, but that they definitely want to work with us as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Does anybody else have a question or they want to make a comment?
Thank you. Sorry.
No, seriously. That's true. My name's Tim Deal. I live on Deer Cove Street. I'm relatively new to the neighborhood, so I know that there's been years of work going into this. Here in part because of a random email and a Facebook connection based on from friends of Lynn and the Hop. So I appreciate that. It seems like just again fresh to the situation that Swampscott is a contributing factor. That they have pristine beaches that are exclusive to Swampscott residents. So in all likelihood, have very little interest in this little sliver of Swampscott Beach. It also seems that we, as a city, help them with their sewerage by cleaning it and charge them for that. It seems to me that there may be an opportunity to utilize that as leverage to pay attention to an issue that they are not really paying attention to. So I would present that as an opportunity to the city council and to the mayor's office to have a conversation to bring them to the table. So,
Thank you. He gets a clap and I don't? Jeez. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Martha Curry. I'm probably going to get booed because I'm from Swampscott, and I can't speak.
Uh-oh, hey, she's got a lot of guts, I'm telling you.
But I'm actually no expert, and as someone who's survived 2 melanomas, I'd never even go to the beach before, after 9 a.m. But I don't even know what Swampscott's up to, but I know they're under a consent decree, and that we spent a fair amount of money. And I'm now thinking my neighborhood might be part of the problem because the flow trucks, whatever they're called, yeah,
Outflow.
have been in my neighborhood on and off for months. So Swampscott is working on it. I hear that we're not working together, which I think is important. But I didn't want everyone to think we're not paying attention to that decree.
And they made significant.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think we spent millions. I haven't really, no longer a time.
Anybody else have a question? Hi.
Thank you for having the meeting. We live on the corner of Lynn Shore Drive at Deer Cove Street. We moved here about 6 years ago, and we were drawn from Boston to the beautiful beaches, and we still love it here. I think for me, being a newer member, I feel really optimistic about all the people here and the voices being heard. But I also feel a little bit worried in all the talk of how many years this conversation has been going on and that there's going to be more years of permitting. And I'm a type of person that likes an action item, and I don't want to wait for 6 more months for the next meeting. And I'm wondering if you could tell us as ordinary citizens, what can we do to keep this conversation moving along much faster than just waiting for the next meeting to happen? Like what can we do to leave here feeling hopeful and to have a plan?
Start a letter writing campaign. Let your state delegation people know, let the governor know, let the commissioner of DCR, continue to write letters to the paper, continue to bug us to have meetings with the Friends of Lynn Beach, continue this conversation. So we want to see action. So I'm with you there. I want to sit down with the water and sewer and find out exactly what they're going to do about the problem with the town of Swampscott. I want to see what our state delegation is doing. As I've spent the last 3 weeks, probably about, believe it or not, 70 or 80 hours, either on the phone or in meetings, trying to find a solution and what the issues are and where the problems, what's causing the problem. So we're working on it.
Join the Friends. Yeah, join.
And how many people are here tonight that aren't members of the Friends of Lynn Beach? So right there, tonight before you leave, sign up. Well, go to Jane's house tomorrow on the front porch and she'll have the applications. But I'm saying that it's numbers, and when everybody realizes that you have 300 or 400 or 500 members and everybody's upset, that's what's going to make the difference. So when you only have 50 or 60 people that unfortunately, it's not loud enough for them to hear that. I mean, I hear it because I'm the ward councilor. So this is my area. This is what I represent. It's Rich Colucci's area. He represents the area. So, we hear the 50 people, but the governor's got to hear it. The lieutenant governor's got to hear it. Speaker of the House has to hear it. And the only way to do that is by numbers. So I'm encouraging everybody to sign up, joined. I don't even know what the cost is. And I'm not a member, but now I'm going to become a member. So, okay. So do you want to do another meeting soon? Yes. Do you want to do it here? We'll do it the week after the council meeting. What's the council meeting, the 13th? So what's the date? 20th, August 20th? August 20th, 6 o'clock, right here? I'll be here, all right? And I'll try to get someone from the water and sewer here. I think the mayor will probably be here that night. I'm going to invite Gino Cresta from Swampscott to come. Anybody else? Who? The governor? I'm going to invite the governor. I've invited him to other things. Let's see if he shows up.
President Cyr, like you said about numbers, though, it's one thing if you call the governor, but if everybody in this room calls
Correct.
the governor and tells him to be here,
Right.
Congressman Moulton should be a part of this as well. So if everybody just makes one call and says the date, he should at least have a representative here.
It's grassroots is what's going to get this thing done.
Invite the town manager to come.
Who?
Town manager.
Town manager from Swampscott. So we've got a lot of letter writing to do. We're an army. Let's win the war, not the battle. 6 p.m., August 20th. Thank you for coming.